first off, I think, just heard about, Jamie Samuelson, and I just want to kind of, from the organization, from the Lions and myself, just want to send out our thoughts and prayers for what he's going through. I think sometimes, we're as a society right now, we're all in on COVID, right? And we're all in on NFL and testing and the sports leagues. I don't think we can forget about people that are going through everyday battles like Jamie is. So I think we should always think about those people, because life is going on around us. Even though we're talking about COVID today, there's things that are very important that are going on. So, my thoughts, my personal thoughts and prayers out to him and his family, and also from the Lions organization. So wanted to say that first. Before we get really going into the nuts and bolts of what I want to talk about, I'll just kind of tell you guys, we have nothing to report on any positive tests or opt-outs this morning. So if there's anything to report on that, it will be later on today. We have nothing to report on that. So I just want to get that out of the way at the start. So I'll start off, this has been a long journey for us, basically starting, after the draft, early May, we kind of got into the planning stages of how we're going to operate the facility and going through all the protocols that the league has sent us over time. And I think first and most importantly, everything I'm going to talk about today and everything we've talked about to the players and to the staff and to anybody that's really going to be entering our building is our number one priority is the health and safety of everybody, players, coaches, staff, family members, you guys, when you guys are at practice. So that's our number one priority as an organization. We've talked about it at length, from ownership down to myself to Coach Patricia. That's our number one thing, as it should be right now. Like I said, it's been a long journey since early May, a really total team effort from a lot of people that, you guys might not know personally, but have done an outstanding job just trying to get everything ready in the building. And really, we're moving with this because, as you guys know, we're getting memos from the league on almost a daily basis. And, there's a lot of questions because this is all new for all of us. So they might send us a memo and we might have 30 questions off a four-page memo. So there's a lot of calls going on. The league's been good with communication. But, honestly, they don't have every exact answer nailed down because this is all new for them too. Early on in the process, I would say probably mid-May, as I look back on my emails and in my calendar, we started a return to work committee. We call it the RTWC. And that's really an internal committee that we started back in May, really about our facility. How are we going to get Allen Park open with all the things we need to do? So I want to mention a couple people here that have done an outstanding job with that. This isn't everybody on the committee, but these are, the main folks. Kevin Anderson, Mike Disner, Gina Newell, Elton Moore, Charlie Coughlin, Travis Goslin, Allison Mackey, and Matt Barnes, along with Dave Granito. So there's a few more people that I left off, but those are that's the core of the people that, every day there was at least one Zoom call or one, conference call about something that had to deal with the facility, dating back to May. So those people have done an outstanding job, have gone well above and beyond, I would say, their job descriptions. And they've added a lot of new things that they're, becoming experts in. Not that we're experts right now, but, I'll show you. I have a binder from the league. You guys see this? Not really. Not really see it. There it is. It's like 120 pages worth of memos that we've gotten since May. So it's bigger than our playbook. So for myself and for those people I mentioned, along with everybody else in our organization, to really, learn about that stuff and be experts on it, it's been a bear. It's been a long process, but we feel really good where we're at right now. The other kind of committee or team that we created, which is a league mandated thing, was the IRT, which stand for infectious response team. And that's really the medical side of this. So that's a league mandated thing. And that's every team has that. And that's led by, our infectious control officer, as you guys are aware of. Our ICO is Matt Barnes, who is one of our assistant athletic trainers. The reason we chose Matt, he has a very good background because he actually works for the Henry Ford Health System. So he has a great relationship with them. And Henry Ford, Matt's been with us for a few years now, but Henry Ford does a great job in this area, and they kind of give us one athletic trainer for every professional sports team. So I think, the Pistons have one, the Tigers have one, and I believe the Red Wings have one as well. But we thought that was the natural person to pick because of his relationship and his, inner workings with the Henry Ford Health System. So Matt's done a great job. Also, obviously, on the IRT is Dave Granito, who's our head athletic trainer. He's obviously intimately involved in all of this from a medical and a facility standpoint. Dr. Workings, Dr. Beatty, Dr. Suleiman, who you guys don't know. Dr. Suleiman is an infectious disease specialist. She's over at Henry Ford, and she's been a great resource for us as a consultant. If we have any really in-depth questions about things that a general doctor or a medical director cannot answer, she's been a good resource. But I'd say from a medical team, these guys have done an awesome job too. Any questions that we have, they work on it day and night. We've had so many calls that start at 9 and 10 o'clock at night because these doctors are, they're busy all day doing their other things, and we have to get them on off hours. So credit to them. The other thing I'll go through is the IDER. I think a lot of you guys know kind of what that meant, but I would say every department in the building had a small part in doing that, and we feel very proud that we were one of the first teams approved for that. So that allowed us to kind of move into the next phase of really, okay, our facility looks pretty good. Let's kind of get into how we're going to get the players in the building, how the schedule is going to look, and really get into more of the football nuts and bolts of the schedule. So as you guys know, that had to be approved by the NFL, the NFLPA, and then the third party, infectious disease company that they're dealing with. It has, I think it was something to do with DICON. DICON is the Duke University infectious control division. They've been consulting with the NFL and NFLPA, so there was a third party sign off as well. A couple things about our facility. I mean, these things are, you guys probably see them out in public, but I mean, there's hand sanitizing stations everywhere. You guys saw Rod's video. We have touchless soap dispensers. We have a new air filtration system that was really, the doctors and the medical people were pushing for. So we got that installed last month. We have new open air coolers. So obviously in a football facility, we have coolers everywhere, right? For drinks, Gatorades, waters, all those specialty drinks. So the majority of our coolers previously were your normal cooler that you would see, at our facility. But now we have open air coolers. So very similar to what you see at the grocery store if you're going to get a bottle of milk. So all of our coolers are like that. So there's no more handles. We have Clorox 360 sprayers, which is really kind of, think of a Ghostbusters type backpack with a spray unit. That's what our facilities and our cleaning staff will do multiple times every day to kind of clean down the building, especially the high touch areas. We've had 10 full building deep cleans. That means nobody's allowed in the building for 48 hours. They've done that over the last couple months. Most recently it was, over last weekend. So this place has been cleaned, very, very thoroughly. Plexiglass dividers in the lockers. You guys, probably seen pictures of other teams. We'll try to shoot some out to you guys, aiming if we can coordinate that once the locker room's set, which will be by the end of the day today. Get some pictures sent out of the locker room. They've done a great job there. So really it's every other locker on the outside as you guys stand in the locker room with the plexiglass dividers. And then we bought brand new, we call them temporary lockers, but they're actually really nice temporary lockers. They're brand new from Longhorn Lockers that are going to be spread, physically distanced in the middle of the locker room with also plexiglass in between them. So there's not as much walking space, but it's spread out at a very acceptable level. I would say the dining operations is like one of our biggest challenges. That's the thing I would say. A lot of these things were very fixable. The dining thing had to be really revamped at a high level. So we have multiple tents. If you're standing in our dining facility, dining room currently, you look out, we put down 2 doors, and there's a massive tent, kind of like a corporate style golf tournament type tent, if you guys would, picture that. That's going to have seating and a little bit of it's not a buffet line because the buffets are out, but there's a service line there that you can get your food that way. Or, and more importantly, this has been a big push by our nutritionist, Catherine Hawkins. We have an app that you can order your meals in advance, which I've been using for the last, what's today? Tuesday. So the last 3 days I've been using this app, and it's great. So you just you have an app on your phone. It gives you an alert and says, hey, you got 30 minutes to order breakfast for the next day, or by 9 o'clock this morning you have to order lunch. And it's prepackaged, and it's in a kind of to go kind of warmer in a kind of we have a takeout line that we kind of built into our kitchen, into our dining facility. So I think our goal is by the second week of training camp that we have the majority of everybody using the app. It's going to be a little bit of a trial and error and kind of getting the coaches and the players up to speed. But so far, I'd say in the first couple of days, it's been outstanding. The player meeting rooms, obviously you guys have seen pictures of that. We're going to utilize the indoor field for a lot of our bigger meetings, and really every meeting room has a max capacity. So if you guys have never seen our quarterback room, our quarterback room is probably one of our smaller rooms because it's a smaller position in terms of numbers. So right now, our quarterback room could hold 4 people. So we usually have 5 in there, maybe 6 if we have 2 coaches. So the quarterback room as it stands right now is not usable. So that's actually storage right now. So every room got upgraded to the next size room. So the way it stands right now, I think the offensive line is going to use our team meeting room. So the team meeting room that we normally had in previous years held 120 people. Now it's going to hold like 34, I think, is the max. So as you can see, every room got a little bit downsized. There's max capacity signs on the doors, and there's only the amount of chairs that equals the max capacity. So we can't have more than allowed in each room. A little bit about the tiering system. I know you guys kind of are aware about your tiering situation. Our tiering thing is the same basically. We have tier 1 and tier 2 people, and they're going to go through the exact same testing protocol as the players. So we are in that process now. That was a long process to figure out and pare down how we're going to get that 100-person number. I think it's 60 and 40, if I have that right. We submitted that a while back, but that's going to be that was a very long process for myself, Mike Disner, Kevin Anderson, and then coach at the end to figure out, who do we need? So a lot of people that can do their jobs remotely are going to do their jobs remotely. We have the ability to flex people into the tiers if we need, but they have to go through the protocol at the start end. So there's a lot of moving parts with the tierings, but we have our core group that have been in this week, and we feel good with the amount of people we have in the tiers and how we're going to be able to manage that. So a little bit about the testing. So obviously you guys have seen the BioReference trailer that's outside the parking lot. Yesterday was the first day for players. So that went really smoothly. The check-in, check-out process. The first day of testing is always the longest because the players have the option to do the antibody test, which is a blood test. So that's a blood draw. So that takes another minute or 2. But going forward, it will just be the nasal swab. So basically, my time from when I checked in till I left the door yesterday was like, I think 2 minutes, maybe even less. So it's a really quick process. And, I think as with anything with this, the more we learn about how to get in and out of there quicker and how the staff kind of can expedite things, it will be a very smooth process. One thing I do want to say about testing, and we've hammered this home with our staff and with our players and everybody, testing is only one step. We can't protect from the virus for just testing. It's about education, number 1. It's about PPE, and it's about contact tracing. All those things are just as important as the testing. But as you guys know, we're testing once we get started. Once the player's in the building starting Saturday, we're testing every single day for 14 days. every day for 14 days. And then depending on our rate, it could go to every other day. So we'll see what the rate comes in at of the positive test. We don't know that, obviously, but it could go to every other day. So the extent of testing is great, but education, PPE, and just being smart about what's going on is going to be probably just as important as the actual testing itself. So a couple more things. So we've had an educational Zoom meetings. We've done a bunch of them. We've done support staff. We've done support staff and coaches' families separately. We've done players, and we have a players' family Zoom call scheduled for, I believe it's tonight or tomorrow. I believe it's tonight. It is tonight, 8 o'clock. So our players' families will have the opportunity to get the same educational materials and ask questions to our medical staff as we did, as I did, as our coaches did, and as our players did. So we kind of broke that up and did a little bit more than what was required because we felt that we'd be better in smaller groups so people would have the opportunity to have questions. Because as you guys know on Zooms, some people are uncomfortable asking questions. So we wanted to make smaller groups for the educational sessions so people would feel comfortable. And, we have anybody on our staff, myself, our equipment manager, our players' families, they have direct access to our athletic training staff and our doctors. So they have their cell phones. So if anything comes up, any questions that are offline, they have all that information and they can get their answers, their questions answered. Because this isn't just about, hey, what's going on at Allen Park? We'll get questions from our families and our players' families. What about the schools? What should the schools be doing? And our doctors can kind of give advice for our staff or our players to go ask the schools, hey, what are you guys doing in terms of protocols? So we have tremendous resources, and we're going to allow those resources to be spread to anybody in the organization that needs them. Lastly, I would say the contact tracing, which we're starting is, you guys have read about that. Connexon, I got mine on my wrist right here. Can you guys see that? So I'm wearing it on my wrist. We have like a watch type band option. We have a sweatband option. We actually have, I think we're going to have 3 options for staff members and coaches and players to wear it on a different part of your body. You can put it on a lanyard. You can put it on your wrist. You can put it on your credential, which we have, tiering credentials that we have to wear. So we have different options because I think different people are going to want to wear it different ways. So I think you guys know how this works, but basically the Connexon devices are not GPS devices. They don't track where you are. They track who you're near. So basically everybody in tier 1 and tier 2, they can intermingle, right? Tier 1s can intermingle very closely. Tier 2s, it can't be extended periods of time, which is over 10 minutes. And then if you're a tier 3 person and you get within 6 feet of a tier 1 or tier 2 person, your thing starts blinking red or orange. I can't remember mine hasn't blinked yet. So it's a blinking thing that says, hey, you're too close to a tier 1 or tier 2 person. And then I think if it's like an extended period, if it goes over a certain amount of time, it actually makes a sound. So I have not seen that work yet because I have not experienced it myself, but in the demonstrations, that's what it shows. So again, it's just another way for the people that shouldn't be interacting, because the tier 3 people are not in the everyday testing protocol. So those people should not interact with tier 1 and tier 2 people. So with that, I need to take a drink of water because I just spoke a lot, but I have time for a couple questions. I don't have a ton of time. I know Eamon told you guys I got stuff going on, but I'm willing to answer a couple questions before I jump off.
Thanks, Bob. We got about 5 questions here. So Tim, why don't you start us off?
Thanks, Bob. Good to see you. Thanks for doing this. Obviously, it looks and sounds like you guys have done a great job of making Allen Park a safe environment. But, obviously, unlike the NBA and the NHL, you guys aren't in a bubble. So I'm curious the conversations that you've had with players about mitigating their risk when they are away from the facility.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's, we are not in the bubble, right? We have a bubble once you walk in the facility, but it goes back to the education tip, Tim, That's the huge thing. I feel comfortable walking into this facility every day because I know everybody around me is going to be tested all the time, right? What I don't know is what people are doing when they leave and go home. So we have to have a lot of trust. We have to have a lot of education, and we have to have a lot of mature decision making when people leave the facility.
Justin Rogers.
Hey, Bob, you had a couple different options with how to set up your roster coming into camp. What went into the decision you made to, I guess, go with a split squad?
Yeah, we're going to stay with 90. And the reason, a couple of reasons, not to get too much detail, but, we want to see all the guys we have in the roster. We feel like everybody in the roster has something to show us, and they're here for a reason. We have a small rookie class, as you guys know. So we kind of, when we constructed the roster in March and April, we kind of, envisioned maybe a scenario like this that we wouldn't have much of an off season. So we wanted to kind of get a few more veterans on the team. So we want to evaluate those guys for the amount of time that we have. And secondly, and probably more importantly, is, for the first little bit of camp, we're going to do things in definitely that split squad scenario. So we're not going to have everybody in the building at the same time. So we're going to do virtual meetings. They're going to come in for their workouts, and we're going to stagger it. So we're going to try to keep the distance as much as possible before we have like what we call real practice starting in that second and third phase.
Dave.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for doing this. We do appreciate it. And this is kind of following up on what Tim said, because I think both as an organization and as a league, you guys have done a lot to identify, contain, control the spread. But baseball did too, and we're kind of seeing what an outbreak can do there, how long it can shutter a team for who knows how long. So since you're not in a bubble, and given what's happened there, what concerns do you have about the whole thing over the course of a 5-6 month season and just how fragile it is? And then just as a follow-up, because one thing I don't think we have an answer on yet is what's your understanding of how an outbreak will be handled? Like if a player tests positive after he's been in the building, for practice or a game, who sits out and for how long?
Yeah, so the MLB thing, I'm aware of it, obviously, and that's concerning for sure, right? The one thing that I do know, the difference between us and the MLB is they only tested twice at the start, and they haven't tested. They're in a totally different testing protocol than us. So I don't know the specifics of it, so don't quote me on that. But I know from what I understand, they did they did frequent testing at the start for the first couple of days, and then kind of everybody was okay until they showed symptoms. So I think there's a difference there. I think our testing is a very robust testing program. I think you guys would agree with that. Am I concerned? Obviously, this is a big unknown. But we'll do the best we can, and we feel like, at least for the Lions, we have a good plan in place for the facility to keep everybody safe. And it goes back to education. It goes back to making mature decisions when you're away from the facility and making safe and healthy decisions. Okay, the second part of the question was, remind me one more time.
Yeah, just what happens? Who has to sit out and for how long? If there's not, somebody practices on a Thursday, they test on a Friday. Who has to sit out and for how long? If you know.
Yeah. So there's a protocol in place, and I think it goes back to the contact tracing. So if someone tests positive, they go back to the contact tracing data, and they see how long those people have been near each other, and then it's really decided for us. So that's why the Connexon. I think that's why the league went with the Connexon, because it's going to give you very real data, and it's not going to be club by club deciding who might have to sit out or who has to quarantine. It's going to be very black and white. It's going to be in the data.
Do you know J.C. Treader, when he talked on the NFLPA conference call the other week, talked about, if a center tests positive, he's in, the meeting room with the offensive line. He's in the huddle with his offense. He's blocking guys on the defensive line, linebacker. Will all those people have to sit out? I mean, do you have any idea what that data or what the points are?
I do not. I'm not a scientist. They're basically going to show us a list of what happens and who has to sit out. But the thing is, the meeting room thing, Dave, is they're going to be spread out in the meetings. It's practices and games. Like, let's use common sense here. That we know that's going to be, where we're going to be most nervous about.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we got time for three more. We'll go Kyle, Burke, then Rothstein.
Hey, Bob, thanks for your time. this is probably a secondary concern for you, but there was an expectation out there. I think that you guys would talk to Kenny about a contract, maybe Taylor. How has COVID or the salary cap implications going forward affected maybe those negotiations, if at all?
Yeah. Again, you guys know my stance on talking about contract negotiations in the media. I don't do it. So I'm gonna punt on that question. We'll have internal conversations about all that stuff, and if there's something to report, there'll be something to report.
Chris?
Hey, Bob, thanks for doing this. I guess just sort of a quick two-parter. One, just non-football perspective. What's it like to be out of your house and back in the building and working again? And then two, you mentioned the family calls and you sort of split that up so people could ask questions and things. I'm assuming that'll be pretty lively. There'll be a lot of people that want to ask questions. Are you anticipating that there are still players in discussions about maybe opting out this year? Do you have any idea for where guys might be in that process with their families?
Yeah. First part of the question, yes, it's totally different. I mean, my first day back in the facility was the middle of last week. So I hadn't been here since I think March. I don't know, Amen, was it the 20th or 19th? I can't remember. In that world. So like I haven't been in my office in like forever. So it was kind of bizarre walking back in for sure. But I would say it was refreshing to come back. My first week back, there wasn't a lot of people in the office. It was a very small group of people. So that was good. And now gradually over time, the coaches are back. So it's a little bit more busy. We're trying to be smart and be physically distanced, at least, as best we can until we all get through the testing protocol. But it's been refreshing. It's been good to kind of see, because working remotely when you're trying to get stuff done in your facility is challenging, right? So you're relying on the very few people that were here, the facilities crew and the operation people, to send you videos and send you pictures. So that was a bit of a challenge. But I would say when I walked in and did my first walkthrough of the facility, I was blown away by the amount of progress they made, and I'm very proud of our staff for that. So the second part of the question, I'm not sure where players are at in terms of that. We have one of the educational sessions remaining, and that's with the players' families, and that's this evening. So I have not heard any questions about that to me. I'm sure they're having internal conversations. I think everybody in the league is. I really have nothing really to report on that aspect.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go last question with Mike Rothstein.
Hey, Bob, how are you? Thanks, like everyone said, for doing this. A lot of my questions have already been hit, but I'm wondering, you guys have always been pretty big at kind of working the back end of the roster, whether it's in training camp or even in the regular season. How much do you think that might change for you because of the protocols that you all have in place and everything that's gone on around the league? Like, what might that even look like?
Mike, that's like my biggest question, right? And I don't have a great answer, honestly. So as it stands right now, we cannot bring a player in for a tryout. We cannot bring a free agent player in for a tryout as it stands right now. Now the league is working on this, and they're supposed to be letting us know how we can do that. We could bring somebody in for a physical and send them to our doctor's office off-site, but we cannot physically see that person here or work them out. So that's going to be a challenge. And then the onboarding process of, claiming a player, trading for a player, signing a free agent during the season, all that stuff, honestly, I don't have a lot of information on because they haven't told us, because that's a whole different protocol than the protocol that's in place for the players that are currently on your roster. So that's a big question that I think everybody in my seat around the league is like waiting for more guidance on.
Is that something that, have you started to pressure the league at all, of saying, hey, I need to know this by 2 weeks from now, because if guys opt out or guys get hurt?
Oh, we had a call with the league at 5:00 yesterday, and that was yes, to answer your question. We pressured the league.